Or do I stick it out with my neighbors?
No, I'm going to shelter.
First images of the actual splashdown that's expected in the Atlantic Ocean.
What was that?
Earlier footage showed a...
Now that we're back after I nearly got us arrested and beaten up by walking into the wrong car a second ago. Or almost walking into the wrong car. I only saw this car once before. It was earlier today, so when we were walking to it, and I see the back lights like light up, I thought, oh, he must have just hit something on his keychain, not remembering what color of rental you have. And then just... I didn't know someone was in there until, oh, she's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder what scared her away.
No, she left whenever I mentioned, like, oh, good. I was hoping she wouldn't stay behind us the whole time.
Well, maybe she's curious as to what exactly we're doing. Like, and making sure we're not trying to carjack someone else to do carjacking movie reviews.
Here's our review for Greenland.
After seeing it, it makes sense when we try to break into a car and steal it and try. I gotta get in everything before the world ends, which means my new show where I just come into people's cars and deliver the reviews right to them. Whether they want me to or not. What? I look trustworthy, right?
Actually, now I'm picturing that. That would actually be a pretty funny gimmick. Just like you, like I can imagine you like getting into that woman's car and just being like, okay, so here's my review for Greenland, and she's just like,
great idea. It is last as long as the O.J. Simpson prank show did. You just got jonesed. So I feel like I should have been seeing this movie in a theater, just because, not because clearly it was intended to be a theatrical release, and in places where theaters are open, I think you can see it in theaters, but in that few months here when movie theaters are back, this was like the only trailer I got in front of like every movie. Not the only trailer, but this showed up in front of every movie I went to go see, I guess because it was the next big blockbuster type movie. So Greenland was in front of everything from when I saw Tenet to when I went to go see like Tulsa or something like that.
I mean, those sound like the kind of movies that you'd see this in front of.
Oh,
you'd see
what movie are you picturing in your head when you're thinking of Tulsa?
I mean, isn't it supposed to be like some kind of drama?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Not saying it's a good, but I'm just saying it's a drama.
It was a religious drama.
Yeah.
So for a lot of, like, in those type of movies, when I see a trailer in front of it, it's usually for another movie like that, like another movie that, like Tulsa or something, or whatever other kind of melodrama might be coming out. Not typically something, although, well, I can think of some cases in the past where something like that has happened. I do remember going to see, it was one of the Avengers movies, and they showed a trailer for God's Not Dead 3 in front of it.
What?
Yeah. So with Greenland, this movie it's the Comet movie. If you went to go to the movie theater, you might have seen trailers for this. So yeah, it's a big budget blockbuster disaster movie, and if you've seen a number of these movies, you see familiar things that happen in a lot of them, down to the couple that's on the outs, like separated, or at least they're going through a rough patch in their marriage. It's certainly a travel movie, going from point A to point B with a ticking time bomb going off, where they have so much time to get to one place before everything is just screwed up forever. And also having one of the people with them having some sort of medical problem. You see a lot of that in they're common tropes and themes that you do see in a lot of big budget disaster movies.
You know what's funny is that until you just pointed that out, I never really noticed the tropes. I never really noticed those tropes.
I'll tell you why, though. Because this movie, yeah, you will see familiar things that certainly happen in this movie. But this movie just, in my opinion, happens to do it incredibly well. I actually really, really, really liked this movie a lot.
Okay.
I did. This was... You'll see similar things that happen in a movie like 2012 or a lot of Roland Emmerich movies, or some things even that you might see in something like Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. You can point to some different plot points that kind of happen in all of them. It's just that this movie is a lot more grounded. It's a lot smarter than a lot of those. It's a different kind. This movie is going for a much different kind of feel. There is spectacle in the movie, and there is a lot of special effects, but limited. And when I say limited, I don't mean like it's just cock teasing you through it, like that Godzilla movie from a few years ago did. Nor do I mean that it's trying to come across as cheap. It's just that when you're seeing a lot of destruction in the movie, it's there when it needs to be, and there's, whether it's on the TV or stuff in the background, and some surprising things that happen where the particles and the comets are coming down, and maybe you're not expecting them to in that moment. But the intensity and the suspense that the movie is going for isn't like, something like The Day After Tomorrow, where the reporter's there and the Hollywood sign comes and knocks him away, or
right.
2012, or I'm driving this limousine, I gotta jump this crater. It's not that kind of movie.
Right.
It's way more human-based.
Right.
And it does that well, because the acting is very good in the movie, and the situations that are the most intense are situations that are, again, grounded to the point to where if this were to happen, it's not like it'd be unrealistic that you could foresee yourself in certain situations that these people are in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Down to them being split up, the mass chaos.
Yeah.
Parties being taken from one another, people worried they're never going to see each other again, and having to somehow get to one part of the country. Again, things you've seen before.
Yeah. But
the movie's just a lot more human and smarter about it from the very beginning to where from the start of it I was going, this is a pretty tense situation. That it's good at letting you put yourself in that position when they're in this grocery store and they don't think anything bad is going to happen, and he gets this alert on his phone saying,
whenever he first got it, he's like, Amber Alert,
Yeah, and he's going, okay, this is saying to like pack my bag, and like there's this lottery going on where essential people are needed, but no one else in the store is getting it. Yeah. So it's like there's kind of this confusion, like, all right, I got to kind of play it cool right now.
Right.
And where he's going is this party that they're having in which he's gotten this message, but no one else has.
It was actually back at his house. They
this party at his house, because it's on their TV as well. And so it's like, man, this is this kind of intense, awkward situation. Mm-hmm. And when they're driving away and the others are trying to get them to like take their kids with them, but they can't. They literally can't. It tells them that they can't do that. So that's kind of the tone that it has through the rest of the movie. And I really did dig the hell out of it. I was very entertained. I thought it was thoroughly suspenseful.
So I'm going to say I half agree with you.
Yeah.
It was suspenseful, it was tense, and I did like the special effects. I had kind of an issue with Gerard Butler's character in that sense of, whenever you say that you took it you're not sure what you would do in that situation. I think there's something to be said about like community and whatnot. So I don't know, at the start of it, so you make a good point. Like if I was to see myself in that same position, I would be torn to this decision of, do I bail? Do I just head to the shelter as fast as I can
Yeah.
while my neighbors and whatnot are just like, hey, what the fuck? Or do I stick it out with my neighbors?
No, I'm going to shelter.
And see, so that's kind of what I mean is that I don't know. I think the fact that Gerard Butler's character, you know, took that decision and everything, I don't know. I kind of took it as a bit.
I would understand the predicament if you're with, I don't know, if you're with like your parents maybe or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it's not like it's an easy decision in this. Plus at this point in the movie, he doesn't quite know, like he knows it's bad.
Right.
But not maybe to the extent to where it leads up.
Yeah.
So I get it from the standpoint of he does have his family to look after. So it's not really a question of like, well, do I stick it out here with my neighbor where the sky is just like raining fire? It's more than just, will he do this? He's got a family to take care of and a kid. And if there is some kind of alert you get that even gives a hint that maybe this is a safe place to be, I don't care who you're with. Like most likely, especially if you got your kid with you, like you're going to take that chance and go to.
No, and so yeah. Once again, I kind of get that. I kind of get the predicament that he's in, and it would be a tough decision. I just kind of feel like Gerard Butler was quick to be like, okay, pack a bag, let's go.
Yeah, of course. There is hellfire raining from the sky. Yeah, it's a quick decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be thinking on my feet pretty quick too in that. Like,
and he does do that well in this movie. He does, like, you know, he's like quick to go get the kids insulin, which I guess I'm jumping ahead.
The insulin. So yeah, when it got to that where they get separated due to the insulin and everything, there was a point where when this happens in the movie, and it happens fairly early on in the movie, where I was sitting there going like, oh man, is everything else that's happening in this movie going to be because this kid accidentally forgot a thing of insulin in the car, and then is this going to be the thing that causes this chain reaction of destruction afterwards and possible death? And yeah, it certainly is there for a start to that eventually is this kind of domino effect that leads to a lot of separations going on. But what I like about the writing here is that when something happens about 20 minutes later, it's like, whoa, it's actually a good thing that happened, because actually is kind of instrumental in saving their lives at one point in the film. And now there's things that you could certainly point at and be like, well, I don't know if that would necessarily happen with a movie like this, which of course, because at the end of the day, it is a disaster movie. I just think it's a lot more clever and smarter than your typical big budget blockbuster disaster movie. Another reason why it's instrumental that Gerard Butler is one of them who's picked, because they say, as you kind of pick up early on, that a lot of these people are picked because of what their jobs are, and that's the case with him too. But there is one thing that happens in which they're not able to board a certain plane early on in the movie or get past a certain point because of a particular medical condition. And I was like, to a point, I was wondering if that would happen in real life, but I'm like, I don't know if his job is that important that he needs to be saved in this mass extinction event. I don't think they would let something like that medical thing kind of get in the way. And plus, I imagine one of those people would probably be like, yeah, okay, whatever, just get on the plane. Granted, it's a good thing they didn't get on the plane. Well, because it would have been a very short movie if that were the case. Like, oh, they're gone, everything's fine. What a great short film. So, yeah, there's little things you could question that about this movie. But
I'm glad you addressed that because, you know, I was sitting here thinking, well, wait a second. Wasn't there just kind of like a hole in the plot and the whole thing?
I wouldn't go so far as to say that's a hole, because it's explained.
Yeah.
So it's explained in the context of the movie. I just don't think that would necessarily, like, to that degree in this. Like, I don't see that being a huge... In some cases, sure. In this particular specific one, I don't know. But it is explained. It's not... There is reasoning for it, and they do go into detail about it. It's just sort of something that's there very conveniently for it to be this kind of cross-country travel movie. And but where it goes from there, again, because since it is more about the human end of this disaster, you see how, like, screwed up some people get. Like, where there's like a straight up kidnapping at one point in this film. Like, people who probably, before the events of this film, were maybe okay people, but put into this situation of desperation that will just kind of turn them into monsters. I liked that about the movie. It
was otherwise a good movie. It was otherwise a suspenseful and the scene where they were in a traffic jam and it started raining molten lava, I guess.
Oh yeah.
I felt like there wasn't going to be much shelter from that. I mean, they found that bridge and I even thought to myself, now, is that realistically going to help you? I mean,
I don't like that's one scene that you'll see in a lot of stuff like this where, like, at some point they're going to be driving around and dodging shit.
Yeah.
But in a much smarter movie than Geostorm was, another Gerard Butler disaster movie.
Now I will say this, that same scene where he rescues somebody from a car, I was actually thinking, well, there's one unselfish thing that Gerard Butler does in this movie.
He does tons of unselfish things in this movie. Like, one, protecting his family from going to get the kids insulin.
Well,
and even like the whole movie is Gerard Butler trying to either get to or protect his family.
Yeah, no, whenever I say selfish, I mean like selfish outside of his family unit, but
yeah, I mean, if you're talking about when he was leaving his neighbors behind, I don't think that's just one of those hard situations where making the decision he doesn't make you a selfish person. It makes you faced with a rough decision, but his reasonings for doing what he did was because he was told he couldn't do anything but that. And and for all he knows, doing exactly what this message says is the only way that's going to keep his family safe.
Sure. No,
even by the end, he was going to sacrifice himself so his family could get on a plane. Actually, that was another thing I liked about this, was because it was one of those movies where I didn't know if our leads were going to make it to the end of the film. Like, because it had the tone of a disaster movie that you might have seen in the past that would have no problem with just killing everybody off.
Yeah.
So that made it suspenseful for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. The movie was not that I thought it was going to be bad. From the trailers, I just thought like, oh, well, okay, that looks like a disaster movie.
Well, what letter grade would you give this one? I know you went first the last time, but let's do another one.
Yeah. You know what? It does take a lot for me to nowadays really, really get into a disaster movie like this that's on like a bigger budgeted, like blockbuster scale, because ones that I've gone to see within the past handful of years might be like dumb entertainment. Like I was not bored by Geostorm, as silly as that freaking movie was. It was silly in a way where it was like, I'm not bored. Same with San Andreas, really. But a lot of disaster movies now are hard for me to get into on an effects level, because when I see a disaster movie, I prefer seeing like actual models and things like that get blown up, model buildings getting just destroyed and destructed. Like, yeah, because I want to see actual destruction.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's certainly not in an art form in the CGI and visual effects that they put into these movies. I'm just more impressed when it's an actual physical thing getting destroyed in a disaster movie. So because of that, it can be very hard for me to enjoy one of these movies on the same level that I do something like Poseidon Adventure or Towering Inferno or Earthquake or Independence Day even.
I was gonna say that because just that scene in Independence Day where they blew up the White House looks so realistic.
Yeah, and a lot of that still holds up. So yeah, it's hard for me to get emotionally invested in a lot of these, like especially in the effects and action, because I'm like, it kind of looks samey a little bit. Yeah. Whereas this, I really, really, really was, because it was good at keeping the intensity at a very human level. And then when the effects were in it, because I was so invested in these characters and the story and everything, it made a lot of those effects hit closer to home, especially because it's not like you see cities destroyed in this, but it's not like that's a whole 15-minute sequence like 2012 or The Day After Tomorrow or something like that, where like that's kind of the come shot of the movie is like city or Armageddon or whatever. Like no, it's in the movie, but they're where it needs to be, and that made it hit closer to home for me. Or hit better for me than a lot of recent disaster movies do. So I would give it, I'm torn between a B+ and an A-, because it's not like it's a perfect movie. Yeah. It does have the tropes that you see in a lot of disaster movies. It just does it well. Honestly, I will go ahead and bump it up just because of how rare it is that I like a disaster movie this much nowadays. Really? So because it's like, man, this is honestly one of the best ones I've seen in a long time for disaster movies. So I'll bump it up to the A- just for that alone, because I thought it was a nice surprise.
Wow. Okay.
What about you?
Okay. I was actually even thinking before I asked you, and since you said all that, I definitely feel like my grade is a little more confirmed. I'd have to go with a B.
Yeah, I can see that, because it is. Yeah, I totally see that, because again, it does do a lot of similar things that you see in this kind of movie. I just, like I said, the people who wrote this movie, they just did it well. Yeah, I thought they took a lot of cliches and they did it very well.
Yeah. And I guess, and I'll tell you, I guess since you mentioned those cliches, I think in other movies where those types of characters and whatnot aren't, if they're not related, they're seen more as like dead weight or something like that. So they can be like dispensable or something like that.
Like the comic relief.
Yeah.
Like which this movie really doesn't have anyone like that. But actually, this movie really, it doesn't, like, you see the typical characters in a disaster movie, like, again, the bickering couple, the kid, the older person, and things like that. But I will say, like, it didn't have the annoying comic relief. I'll give it that.
and so the fact that like you had all these characters like that were related, it became less of a dump the baggage situation and more of hey, we got to do what we got to do kind of thing. So yeah, no, I'm with you. I really like that.
Yeah,
I really like that, but I don't know if it was enough for me to give it the B or give it the A.
Oh no, I could. Yeah, when you started talking about the movie, like I was like, okay, he's probably going to be in the B category.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I liked it a little better than he did. But when we were watching it, I could tell you weren't disliking it.
Yeah, no, definitely didn't dislike it. I just, meh.
I don't know why I know why they call it. I know where the title Greenland comes from because that comes into play in the movie, but it is one of those titles that feels like a title you'd see on the first draft of a script. Like, this doesn't describe the movie at all. It's one thing the older disaster movies are better at too, is their titles. Even the lower end, like the Paul Newman volcano movie that's kind of bad. It's like, well, it's got a good title. It's called When Time Ran Out. Like, you can feel the desperation in the title.
And who knows, maybe they went with Greenland because all the good titles were already taken.
Yeah. I guess, like, what do we call it? What's a place that's in the script? Greenland? Yeah, okay. Fine. Let's call it that.
Can't really call it Kentucky. I mean, that...
Yeah, it's the new type of like special effects disaster movie where it's just named after a place that's in it, like Pacific Rim, you know? Or if you're go into the video store, Atlantic Rim, you're getting the Asylum version. But all right, well. Oh, good. I think she's back and decided she does want to hear about the movie. We'll go.
You better get in there.
Yeah, we'll go talk to our new friend. See ya.